Today we begin our study about slope, and slope defines the graph of a line and how steep or shallow it is. In number one, as you see, we have the graph y equals x already on there for us. What we need to do is we need to find, it says on the same grid, graph the following in different colors. So let's go ahead and we'll pick colors, and if you're at home doing this, you can use map colors or maybe just a highlighter. So to graph this y equals 2x, we're going to make a little table just like this. I'm going to put my x values here, my y values here. If you have a graphing calculator, then go ahead and go to your y equals, and we're going to put in the right side of the equation, 2x, just like that. Make sure you're using this x next to the alpha key. Then we're going to hit second and then graph, that top right button, and we have a table. Now if you remember from previous lessons, I would like you to use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Then we're going to find our y values. Well, x right here, -2, y is -4. Then if you go down 1, you'll see -1 for x gives us -2 for y. 0 is 0, 1 is 2, and 2 is 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plot these points. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to go to -2, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4. And there is point -2, -4. And then -1, -2, and 0, 0, 1, 2, and 2, 4. So what we need to do is we need to, at this point, go ahead and put in a line. So let me see if I can get us a nice line here. And let's see. I'll draw this. And remember, when you're doing this at home, I'm going to try to fix this up just a little bit. It's a good thing about being on the computer. I can adjust it, and then I can also change the color. So let me change the color on that so that we can see the red line. Let's see. Well, here, we'll make that a red line. See if we can make that a little darker for you. There we go. Nice red line. Now we're going to, well, let's answer our question. It says, how does the 2 change the graph? Well, if we notice this, we're asking, how does it change from this dotted line that they gave us right there? Well, it looks like, to me, well, what do you think? I think it looks steeper. So I can say it gets steeper. Alright, now I'm going to graph y equals 1/2 x. I'm going to come over here. I think I need to restart my calculator. And if you give me just a moment, we'll get this calculator restarted. There we go. We're almost there. Alright, I'm going to move this down into the viewing area. So I'm going to my y equals, and remember 1/2 is essentially a fraction. 1 divided by 2 times x. And you put it in just like that. Second graph. And then remember what we're doing is we are going to use the values x, y, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And I'm going to come up here, I'm going to look, and I have -1, -0.5, 0, 0.5, and 1. So now I can plot these. -2, 1, 1/2, Go over my red right there. Yep. There we go. Now let's go ahead and put in a line. And we're going to make it a blue line. Let me fix this so it's there we go. And let's make it a little bit thicker. And when you're doing these at home, remember your lines must go all the way from one side of the graph to the other and must have an arrow on each end. Now, how does 1/2 change the graph? Well, we're talking about in relation to y equals x, which is the dotted black line. And when we look at that, we can see that it gets shallower. So we can say it gets shallower. And then we ask the question, what is the role of the m in y equals b plus mx? And we're talking about m is the slope of the line, and it's also the coefficient of x. And when we look at this, we can see that what it does is it changes the slope, or it changes the steepness, which is the slope. So I'm going to go ahead and just put slope right here. So let's go on down to our second one here. It says y equals x is graphed for you. This is the parent function. So whenever you see this, y equals x, in graph form or in the form like this, y equals x, that is called the parent function. Let's try to get back down here. Not sure what happened. Alright, so I know what happened. Let's try to get this and move it. Ooh. There we go. I was just trying to get these together and not on the graph. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to working. So if I have y equals negative x, and I'm going to ask you to put this in your calculator. I'm going to do blue for this one. And remember, I'm going to use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And I end up with 2, 1, 0, -1, and -2. So when I plot these, it's going to look something like this. And my line will go like this. Remember, all the way from one side to the other with an arrow on either side. So let's do the next one. I will do y equals -2x. And I would like you to go ahead and make your tables and show them on your work, please. We're going to use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And then I'm not going to use a calculator. I just want you to see what we're doing here. If you are at home, please use your calculator. Let me make this a little bigger so you can see it. Alright. So my values would be 4, -2, +2, 0, -2, and -4. So I'd go to -2, 4, -1, 2, 0, 0, we already have that one there, 1, 2, and 2, or 1 negative 2, and 2 negative 4. So let's go ahead and put in our line. Trying to get this straightened out here. There we go, much better. And we're going to fix the color on that so that it's red and it matches. There we go. Now we'll do the final one, and if you're doing this, maybe use green. It's negative 1/2 x. I'm going to do my table of values right here. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. And then I would get 1, 0.5, 0, negative 0.5, and negative 1. And then I would plot those. Negative 2, negative 1. I'm not going to try the 1/2. I think if we get 3 good ones in here, we can get a nice line. And as a general rule, you need at least 3 good points to draw a straight line. At least 3 good points. Let's see. Alright. Alright, now let's change the color on that, and we will be able to start answering some questions. So the questions now are, how does the negative 1 change the graph? Remember, negative 1 is this blue line, and what it does, it looks like it goes down. So it goes down. How does the negative 2, that's the red one, so it goes down. And when we talk about down, we're talking about if you start on the left and you move to the right, what direction will your arrow go? And it goes down. But this one is also steeper, so, and gets steeper. So that red line would be a steeper hill to climb than this black line. The blue line is the same steepness, so it wouldn't be any more difficult to climb up going that way on the blue line as it would to be climbing up on that black line. And finally, how does negative 1/2 change the graph? Well, it makes it go down too. So it goes, oh, I forgot to put down here, down. It goes down, and is shallower. In fact, if I had to walk up a hill that was this green, it would be easier to walk up because it is not so steep, it is shallower. Alright, so let's look at, oh, we forgot to answer the question. What is the role of the m when it's negative? So the role is it makes the graph go down and changes the steepness. All right. All right. So, hopefully you're using your calculators. What we're going to do is we're going to graph y equals x plus 3. So you're going to go to your y equals and put in the x plus 3. And again, we're going to use the x values -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And we would get on this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I would plot this. -2, 1. Okay. And so if you look, this point is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 2, 5. This is 1, 4, 0, 3, -1, 2, -2, 1. And then when I put in my line, I think we will see something very interesting. Alright, now let's look at that. Is that line any steeper? Did it change from y equals x? No. How did it change it? And when I ask you this, and we're talking about this part right here, the B part, what we're going to do is we're going to talk in terms of shifting up or down. And it's going to be in relation to where this graph crosses the y-axis and this graph crosses the y-axis. So if we look, this one, y equals x plus 3, is shifted up. Let's look at this. 1, 2, 3 units up. So we can say it shifted up 3 units. That's interesting. So let's look at another one. So I have y equals x minus 3. And let me see, where am I? I'm going to put this over here. Y equals x minus 3. And I'm going to put my table here. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And I end up with -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. So when I go to plot this, I would go to -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -4, -1, -4, 0, -3, 1, -2, and 2, -1. And then I draw my line. Are you starting to see a pattern here at all? Well, hopefully your answer is yes. And the pattern would be that if we change the constant, what that does is that shifts our graph up or down. In this case, I'm talking about in relation to this black dotted line. If you notice, it goes down 1, 2, 3. So the -3 made my graph shift down 3 units. Interesting. The x doesn't have a coefficient here. It doesn't have a coefficient here. So the slope didn't change at all. But this number right here, this -3, or in this case the +3, caused the whole graph to shift up or down. Very interesting. So when we ask what is the role of the b in y equals b plus mx, we can say it causes the graph to shift up or down. Okay, so it causes the graph to shift up or down. So what I'm going to have you do is look at each of these and let's talk about how different parts of the equation change things. So on number 4, and we're talking about how it changes in relation to y equals x, or the parent function. So in this, I see my constant is -4. So what does that mean? That means that it is going to translate or shift down 4 units. Okay? Is the graph going to go up or down? Remember when we talked about that before, we talked about correlation, positive or negative. So it is a positive correlation. Now, is 3x going to be steeper or shallower than x? Now remember, if it was greater than 1, then it was steeper. All right, let's look at number 5. Well, on number 5, you see we have 5 plus 3/2 x. Well, this, it's positive and it's 5, so it shifts up 5 units. 3/2, it's positive, you got a plus there, so this is going to be positive correlation. And it's greater than 1, so it will be steeper. All right. Tell you what we're going to do. For number 6, we need a little more room. The reason is we can't determine anything until we get this in the y equals form. So what I have to do is I have to do this. 2x plus y equals -6. Now remember, a couple of weeks ago, we transformed equations to get y by itself. So here we're going to move the x value like this, and we end up, these cancel out. I end up with 1 positive y, which is what I want, equals -6 minus 2x. Now I can answer my questions. This is -6, so it shifts down 6 units. In front, now I'm going to show you this whole chunk right here. That's -2x. It looks like -2x, but we're going to take it as a chunk, and it's a -2x. So since my coefficient of x is negative, my correlation is negative. And we're going to look at the absolute value of -2, which is 2. 2 is greater than 1, so it is steeper. All right, number 7. Again, we have to put this in a form that it's 2y, that has one single y by itself. So I'm going to subtract my x from both sides, and I end up with 2y equals 6 minus x. And because I know what's about to happen, I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 in there. Now I have this 2, which is a coefficient of y. I can't have anything except a 1y. So I need to divide by the coefficient of y. And if you divide anything in an equation, you must divide everything. And I end up with y equals. Now 6 divided by 2 is 3. Oh, this should be, is this? Yes. And then a -1 divided by 2 is going to be a -1/2. And believe me, you're going to appreciate leaving that in fractions, x. So now I have y equals 3 minus 1/2 x. Well, the 3 tells me that it shifts up 3 units. Up 3 units. The -1/2 tells me I'm going to have a negative correlation. And 1/2, just this part without the positive or negative, the 1/2 is less than 1, so it is shallower. All right. You will definitely need to study this. Go back and review this. Listen to this several times. These concepts of shifting up and down, having a positive or negative correlation, and being steeper or shallower are very important concepts. You must get these. You must get them. All right. So now we're going to look at our tables, and we're going to talk about how to tell the prediction of a graph based on the table. So as I look at this, I can look and I see my x values goes from 0 to 1 is plus 1, 1 to 2 is plus 1, 2 to 3 is plus 1, 3 to 4 is plus 1. And then I come over here and I can see 0 to 1 is plus 1, 1 to 2 is plus 1, 2 to 3 is plus 1, 3 to 4 is plus 1. Now to find my rate, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to make a fraction in the form of y over x. And in this case, it equals 1 over 1, which 1 divided by 1 is 1. Now the y-intercept, if you remember from before, is always where x is 0. So x is 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find when x is 0, what is my y value? So here x is 0, y is 0. Alright, let's look at number 9. So I go from 0 to 1, that's plus 1, 1 to 2 is plus 1, 2 to 3 is plus 1, 3 to 4 is plus 1. Then from here, to go from 0 to 4, I have to add 4. To go from 4 to 8, I have to add 4. And I'm going to add 4. I'm going to add 4. Now, when I look at this, I need to do y over x, y over x. So, I'm going to put in my y, this one is 4, over, and then my x value is 1. Well, 4 divided by 1 is 4. My y-intercept, I look, where is my x 0? Alright, where is my x 0? Then I'm going to put in here 0, and then the y next to that is 0. So my prediction is that with 4 as my rate, that's the b value. And remember, I'm sorry, that's my m value. That's my m value. Remember, m, or my slope, tells me if it's steeper or shallower. 4 is greater than 1, so it is steeper. And it goes through at 0, 0, so there is no shift. That's compared to this part right over here in 8. Let's go down here and look at this. From -2 to -1 is plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. You see these are all going up by 1. This is going up by 3, 3, 3, 3. So when I put my y over my x, okay, I end up with 3 over 1. So 3 over 1 is 3. So my first prediction is, since my rate is more than 1, that it's going to be steeper. Now I'm going to find my y-intercept, It's where my x is 0, 0, and then I have this 10. Well, what that tells me is that it shifts up 10. I know it's up because the 10 is positive. So shifts up 10. All right. Let's look at number 11. That's plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. Oh, look, to go from 11 to 10, I need to subtract 1. 10 to 9 is subtract 1. 9 to 8 is subtract 1. 8 to 7 is subtract 1. So when I put my y over my x, I end up with negative 1 over 1, which is negative 1. So 1 in itself is 1. It will be neither steeper nor shallower, but the graph will go down because it's negative. So it's going to go down, and we can put in here negative. And then for my y-intercept, I want to find where is my x0. Well, golly, I don't have a spot where it shows that. So what I can do is I can make that in my graph. And I see 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, well, 0 is next. And then if I see this 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, what's going to be next? It's going to be 12. So my y-intercept would be 0, 12, and that tells me, since this is positive, that my graph, the whole graph, will shift up 12 units. Okay? So on number 12, we need to look at a couple of things. We're going to learn how to talk about steeper and shallower shifting up and down when you have a verbal description. So it says, describe the change that occurs when the graph of y equals x plus 3 is changed to y equals x minus 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the rate. And I look at my rate, and here I have just 1x, and then here I have just 1x. So my rate does not change. You don't have to put this, but if you want, it's good. Rate does not change. I want you to see, though, that the rate does not change. Now, let's look at this. I go from a plus 3 to a minus 1. Well, if I think about it, plus 3 on the graph, and then I'm going down to minus 1 on my y-axis. If I thought about that, if this is 3, 2, 1, 0, negative 1, if I think about this, I've gone, now I'm starting here, because this is the original graph, this is change 2, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4 places down. So it shifts down 4 places. Okay? Another way to do this is, if it's going down, you subtract. So this is plus 3 minus negative 1. So if I did this, 3 minus negative 1, I put this in my calculator, it would equal 4 places down. Okay, 4 places, or 4 units down. Let's look at number 13. So when I look at number 13, I look and I see here I have negative 1x, negative 3x. Well, they're both negative, so they're both going down. That does not change. What does change is this goes from a negative 1, so a slope of 1 going down, to a slope of 3 going down. it gets steeper. It gets steeper. And then I look and I see that I started with a +1 and then a -2. And if I think about my number line again on my y-axis, if I started at 1 and then I end up at -2, what's happened? I started here and then I shift down 1, 2, 3 places. So it shifts down 3 units. 3 units. It shifts down 3 units. And again, since I'm starting here and I'm going down on the y-axis, I would subtract 1 minus -2 equals 3. 3 units down.